Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the VHS DVD review series. So, this review is going to focus on something a little bit different. As you all know, many of the reviews up to this point have been focusing on releases that have at least have at least two or more stories. But this one is going to be a little bit different, as instead of focusing on many stories, it will focus on just one. And this might seem a little bit unusual, but we're going to be covering the specials and the movies that are connected to many of the popular series that I've covered so far as well. So without further delay, it's time to cover our next release. So, as you all know, this video is going to be covering the beginning of the series Sofia the First. And it only makes sense to review the beginning of the series. So this means that I'm going to be covering the very unique pilot of the series, Once Upon a Princess. How will this beginning fare compared to all the others? We shall see. So let's begin with the release history. Sofia the First, Once Upon a Princess was first released on DVD on March 5th, 2013 by Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment. Here's a little fun fact. In November of 2012, people were first introduced to Sofia for the very first time. And almost a year later, I would actually catch it Once Upon a Princess, or otherwise seen it during my stay at the now defunct Nickelodeon Hotel during my Christmas vacation in 2013. Who would have known I'd see this pilot almost on Christmas vacation of all places. But after its March 2013 release, there aren't any other release dates, and it just disappeared. It's really sad too, because it's the main pilot of the series, no doubt. But I'm not gonna let that bother me. Anyways, that wraps up the short release history, so now let's move on to our special. So, Once Upon a Princess features one full-length special as well as 5 bonus music videos. And our story for the release is Once Upon a Princess. For the record, I will be covering the songs on this release because I feel like covering the special alone might not be enough. So if anything, I'll be covering the songs since they are on the release itself. So, let's begin with our special. Sofia the First, Once Upon a Princess. So, in this pilot for the series, when Sofia's mom, Miranda, marries King Roland II, Miranda is welcomed as the new queen, and Sofia is welcomed as the new princess. It is then said that Sofia would have a grand ball to welcome her to the kingdom, but Sofia worries that she's not ready to be a princess and isn't princess material. throughout the week, Sophia keeps on struggling with in the days leading up to the ball, and what doesn't help is her stepsister Amber, who is jealous of her. But when one mishap leads to another, Sophia and Amber must put their disagreements aside in order to find the counterspell to wake up the ballroom after everyone falls asleep on account of Cedric. In the end, everything reverts to normal, and Sophia is welcomed into the family as Sophia the First. All right, to start off this series, and this pilot is a very unique way to start things off. Normally, a pilot is usually brought in to establish the characters and the locations for the series going forward. But not only is this considered to be the main pilot of the series, but it's also considered to be the first full-length episode as well, even though it's considered to be a special. For starters, I really like Sophia as a character. She comes off as a very sweet character who always, as we will soon see, she does grow as a character throughout the series. However, for this special, she's really uncertain about her new role as a princess because of how fast everything is happening. Some people might see this as a downside, but I don't see that personally, because every character has their doubts about something, and they do have their layers as a character, and someone like Sophia is obviously no exception to the rule. I honestly like Sophia's growth in this special, and it really does. And if one were to watch the entire special, I really think her growth here is very excellent, if you ask me. Some people might say something similar like this happens in other specials, or maybe even certain episodes where a new character is introduced and they have their doubts. And while I do understand why there are some people who might disagree with me on that, they might actually see it. So don't say I didn't warn you. And I also do like how even when she's so confused, there are people like her new dad and her mom who are there to tell her otherwise, and that she shouldn't be too hard on herself, which is something a true family member would do. Moments like that throughout the entire special are very sweet, and it's one of the reasons why I really like characters in these sorts of specials. There's not much to go about with many of the other characters, but I'll try to cover as many as I can because I feel like it's important to discuss the most notable additions. There's not much to go about with Miranda and Roland because we will see what they're like later on, but from what we get here, we understand that Miranda is Sophia's mom who married Roland and became the new queen, while King Roland II had been a king for a while and is Roland II because his dad who was also the king was also named Roland, which is pretty good. Then there are Sophia's new siblings, or more accurately, her step-siblings. First up, there's James. While there are while I do consider him a guilty pleasure because most of the focus of the series goes towards Sophia, he's a pretty good character, and how he's characterized is pretty good as well. Not to mention the fact that he's much more welcoming of Sophia compared to the and is considered to be the lesser of two evils in terms of Sophia's new step siblings, which is more than I can say for the other one. So now we get to Amber. And I just want to say for the special, while I do care about her character personality-wise, but character-wise, she's just there. Throughout the special, she's just jealous of Sophia because not only is she a new addition, but everyone likes her a lot, mostly because she's new, and is only told off for her wrongdoings and has a big character and is the focus of her own character arc. Whether if it's her selfish side up until she's told off by James, or her character redemption arc where she after being told off by James because of her wrongdoings. And in a way, I definitely see Amber's characterization in this special being similar to another character in one of my favorite movies of his franchise. And because there's no easy way to say this before giving it away right off the bat, I'm just gonna say it. It's Thomas. Now you might be wondering, why is Thomas being included here? Well, here's the thing. Amber's arc in Once Upon a Princess and Thomas's arc in The Great Discovery both deal with the same thing. And in a way, they are similar to one another. So, I'll just get this out of the way. To further emphasize this point, I'm going to compare some scenes of The Great Discovery to some scenes in Once Upon a Princess that relate to both Thomas and Amber. A new character is introduced to either the railway or the royal family, in both cases, Stanley and Sophia. A character who's been around for a lot longer than the newbie, Thomas and Amber, grow jealous of the newbie. They both try to do the oldie tries to do something that ends up blowing up in their face later on, which ends up playing a big role in their story arc. They soon come to realize that what they did was wrong, and they end up making amends with those they wronged in the end and learn their lesson. To me, both specials are very different, but they aren't too far off in some regard. And I can see both of them being very similar to a story that goes a little bit something like this. A character is unnecessarily mean or selfish towards another character. Something ends up happening to them, which ends up giving them their just desserts, and they end up learning their lesson and are humbled by the end. With James in a Mess or Dirty Objects being the main example of this. But fortunately, the main concept of many of these stories is that even when a character's values get tested, they always return to true neutral by the end of the story. At least with some characters who start out mean before being humbled by the end, there's a certain amount of fun to be had because of their story arcs. And because I compared Amber to Thomas, for some very odd reason, I'm definitely looking forward to reviewing The Great Discovery when I cover that some other time. Maybe that's a weird thing to say right now, but the evidence speaks for itself. Now, we will come back to Amber a little bit later, but let's just get the other characters out of the way. First up, there's Cedric the Sorcerer. And from what we know, he's a character who attempts to cause trouble for Sophia in order to get the Amulet of Avalor. And to me, I don't really care about him, and he's kind of in a similar situation to another character who I also don't care about for the most part. That being Diesel. If one were to compare Cedric to Diesel, one is basically going to see some similarities. They both try to cause trouble for a certain character depending on the story, but they do have their moments throughout that do become some of their more hidden gems. Next we have Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather from Sleeping Beauty, who are characterized in this series as those who work at Royal Prep. And I'm just gonna say, I don't care about them. And I never did, since I never watched Sleeping Beauty back then. This is their debut episode, and we know barely anything about them other than the fact that they work as those who work at Royal Prep. Man, it's like some of these characters are those that are the ones that I barely care about. However, on a much lighter note, there is one character who definitely saves this entire release. And I'm just gonna get it out of the way and spill the tea for you guys. It's obviously Cinderella. And yes, I said it. Cinderella is featured in the special itself. And I'm actually impressed by that. And I've got quite a bit to say about her, so let's just get this out of the way. So, to start things off, I can't think of a better Disney princess to be the first to be introduced in the series outside of the titular movie herself, than Cinderella. And the reason why she's there is explained and involving the Amulet of Avalor, which was given to Sophia earlier in the special. So the main idea of the Amulet of Avalor goes like this. If Sophia does something good, she's granted a blessing, but if she does something wrong, a curse befalls on her. And as for the princess side, the amulet has links to all the Disney princesses there ever were, and when one is in trouble, another one would be sent to help them out. I actually really like this, and I really wish we got to see the Disney princesses a lot more after the episodes they're featured in, because I feel like they wouldn't being featured more than once definitely would help them in the long run. However, outside of that, I really like how Cinderella is characterized throughout the special as well. And I just want to say, her guidance towards Sophia is pretty amazing and sweet in a way. And it really does show how good of a choice it was to have Cinderella featured as the first Disney princess to help Sophia. And plus, I also like the fact that they got Jennifer Hale to voice Cinderella and the fact that she reprised her role after voicing her in Dreams Come True and A Twist in Time is also remarkable. And what's funny is that afterwards, she would be brought back to reprise her role as Cinderella in Ralph Breaks the Internet and Once Upon a Studio. Who would have known she'd return for those roles alone? And it really does show that Jennifer Hale really knows how to voice Cinderella. And I also like the fact that Cinderella was able to give some guidance for Sophia to make things right with Amber, which I also enjoy. Sometimes it's the little things that have a character make the grade in a special. And I do like how Sophia was hesitant to ask Amber for help because of how Amber acted towards her. But Cinderella tells Sophia that everyone deserves a second chance in some regard, which I really like about the lesson that is taught throughout this special. And some big highlights that are in the song True Sisters is how Cinderella explains that even though she's away from her step family, the effects do last longer than one thinks. The singing voice that Jennifer Hale does, that Cinderella's voice actress in terms of her singing, it is pretty good. And the meaning of the song, where everyone deserves a second chance, as said before, is very bittersweet. And mind my saying, even though the Disney princesses only appear in one episode each, it really does feel nice seeing them at least one time throughout the series. And to finish off this review, there's Amber. Even though she was characterized as a mean character throughout most of the movie, she does in some regard make amends with Sophia after what she did, which includes her feeling bad for everything that happened on account of her actions. It really does show that every action, no matter how small, has a reaction. It's not just them making amends that helps with this special, but it's also Amber's highlights. Her main ones are helping Sophia subdue Wormwood with the animal friends, which I do admit is pretty amazing. Sophia offering to fix Amber's gown was also sweet, considering that Sophia had been doing this for years up until she became a princess, and Amber offering to teach Sophia the waltz was also pretty nice. Really does show how far a character can go. Overall, there's not much left to say about this special other than it's amazing. It may have its low points, but that's what makes it. But no special isn't perfect. It may have started out rough for Sophia, but she really came to grow as a character. And it really does show how far a character's arc can get them. Amber may have started out as a bad character in the beginning, but she really did come to terms with how Sophia was the new girl in Crown, so to speak. Overall, Once Upon a Princess is an amazing way to introduce the series, and mind my saying, it's a very wonderful way to welcome Sophia the First. With that said, I give Once Upon a Princess a 9 out of 10. And before we close out the release, we've got the bonus songs. So, let's begin with our first of the 5, I'm Not Ready to Be a Princess. And this one is a pretty good one. The song is about Sophia singing about how she thinks that she's not ready to be a princess, as well as her worries and fears. So, as the first song for the series as a whole, I really like this one. It shows us that Sophia is not that Sophia too has her doubts and thinks that she's not ready for this sort of thing. And mind my saying, outside of this special, I've been there with plenty of times. And it actually makes this song a lot more of a favorite in my opinion. And even though Sophia was ready to be a princess by the end, this song was not ready to be a favorite. Overall, I'm Not Ready to Be a Princess is one of the best songs from the series so far. Next up is Royal Prep. The song focuses on the Royal Prep Academy and the characteristics of it. So, this song is a pretty good one. For starters, it focuses on the dynamic. It focuses on how the students at the academy learn, and what people will do, and what the soon-to-be royals would do. It might seem a bit fast-paced, but I don't mind that at all. It's just how the song goes. With not much to talk about in this song, there's a lot happening on screen that makes you forget about all the worrying parts about the special for a while. Overall, while Royal Prep is not one of my favorite songs, it's definitely a good one. Next up, we've got A Little Bit of Food. This song focuses on Sophia's animal friends and how they help princesses in exchange for food for their hard work. This one might seem a bit of an unusual song, but I don't think that makes it a bad thing. I just think of it as a bit of a layer to the song itself. Not to mention the fact that it focuses on Sophia's animal friends when Sophia can first communicate with them, which was an ability granted by her amulet when she helped a bird earlier in the film. Overall, A Little Bit of Food may be a little bit odd, but I really do like it, but I do consider it to be the worst of the release. That doesn't make it bad, though. It just makes it a little bit decent for the most part. Moving on, we have our last song for the main movie, True Sisters. And the song is a very impactful one. It focuses on Cinderella talking about her troubles with her stepsisters and how it's not too late for Sophia to make amends with Amber. Alright, so now we got this one. This one is a very bittersweet one. It focuses on Sophia learning from Cinderella her own troubles with her stepsisters, and while it is too late for her to make amends with them, it's not too late for Sophia and Amber to make amends. So, and while not many people see this, most of the song focuses on Cinderella's pain from them, and it also references the three Cinderella movies. And if one were to think about it, some parts of the song make the Cinderella movie itself a lot more sadder. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because there are times where a movie can make a person sad, and this song really does show that. And I really like the lyrics and the music in it. Overall, True Sisters is probably tied for my second favorite with I'm Not Ready to Be a Princess, and it's a very good one. And to close out the release, we've got our final music video, which is also the end credits song, Rise and Shine, featuring Ariel Winter. This song features Ariel Winter singing about Sophia's growth as a character throughout Once Upon a Princess, and how it was hard for her at first, but she soon came to terms with how everything went, and how she feels like she's ready to be a princess. All right, for this song, we've got Sophia's voice actress Ariel Winter singing about like she's voicing the character Sophia. And I honestly like that. Some people might think it's a bit cheap to have Ariel Winter actually singing it outside of animation, but I actually really like this song. And I don't see her singing it in live action as a bad thing. In fact, it's kind of a good thing. Plus, it's Sophia's voice actress. What else could you want? And I can't think of anyone else to sing this song other than Ariel Winter. And plus, she's one of my favorite voice actresses. And I really do think it fits Sophia as a character, despite not being featured in the actual movie. Overall, while Rise and Shine might not be a song for everyone, it's definitely a very good one in my opinion. And if anything, it's the best song on the release alone. Truly a remarkable song. So what are my final thoughts on Once Upon a Princess? If it isn't already clear, I really like this release. There might be a few flaws in it, but that doesn't make it a bad special. In fact, it's a very good one. While there might be a few things that people wouldn't accept, I actually think that can be subsided by all the positives I see in it. For the main introduction to Sophia, it's a solid way to introduce her. And we also get to see many of the characters who become staples of the series, whether they appear more or less. And we also get to see Sophia go through a character arc throughout the main special itself, which is something I really like. And as for Cinderella, being in this special might be a questionable one, but it opened the door for the other Disney princesses who would appear and to help show Sophia the way. And we'll see them a lot more when we get into the later releases. I wouldn't go so far to say that this one is a favorite of mine personally, but it's definitely one that I would go back to watch every now and then. The story is amazing, and it's a great introduction to our title character. Plus, it also shows us that she's a character with that's more than just a caring face. She also learns to make amends with those who wronged her, and we also learn that everyone deserves a second chance despite what they did. Overall, the story is solid, the music videos are amazing, and I honestly think this is a good way to introduce Sofia the First to people, to new viewers who had just found the series. And I definitely think this is worth adding to your collection. Believe me, it's really worth it. So if you're a fan of Sofia, go for it. But if not, that's fine. But feel free to check it out if you want. And that's gonna wrap up this review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more VHS DVD reviews and other home media related content. And be sure to check out my other reviews that are in the playlist down below in the description. So, what is the next review going to be? Well, I know I covered 2 Dora releases in my double review from some time ago, but I think it's time to go back to another one after reviewing a special like this. So, next time, we're going to be seeing a lot of Dora's Family, and there's no release that shows that more than Big Sister Dora. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next VHS DVD review.